Okay. So the book that I picked for the presentation or for the semester was The Power of Habit. So this book was very good. Now I will just take away just the main takeaways of this book. This is what I'm going to be presenting here today. The main takeaway of this book, if you were going to read this book and not learn anything, at least the one thing you should take away from this book would be the loop. What is the loop? The loop is how you build habits, and it just lays it out. But the loop is having a cue. The cue uh, the cue signals a routine. The routine, as a result, has a reward. That's it. Cue, routine, reward. That's how habits are built. Over time, you start to crave the reward more and more and more. And they believe that this sort of habit building. It's built to, and it's inside of our brains uh, conserve brain energy power, if that makes sense. They go over it a little bit more in detail. To kind of summarize, what they're trying to say is in the basal ganglia, which is the more center of your brain, uh, that is where habits are built and where they are stored. That's what builds habits. Um, they do have some evidence to back this up. I'm just going to go over two really quickly. The first one is of Eugene Pauli's functionality. They spend, I think, the first, I want to say, two chapters going over this study. It's basically a man, he did suffer from brain damage, more so the outer portion of his brain. And because the basal ganglia of his brain was kept intact, he was able to function more or less normally. He did have some bumps in the road, so it wasn't perfect, but still he was able to function somewhat normally, like do simple things like make breakfast, go on walks, things like that. All right, so the other thing that they had to back this up was the rat experiment. Basically, they had a little maze. It was the shape of a T. One side had chocolate, the other side didn't. In the very beginning, the rat would run through, kind of sniff around. They would track the brainwaves of the rat. They showed that the first couple times before the habit was actually built, it was very it was very high. So the brain functionality was very high. It wasn't conserving any sort of energy until it had built the habit. They showed that after a few times, the once the rat has built a habit of it inside his basal ganglia, there was hardly any brain activity, and which is a good thing. Okay, some people that they did mention, uh, one person in particular was Claude C. Hopkins, who utilized the sleep to his advantage. He was at the time a famous sort of ad campaign guy, whatever you call that. He made ads, is what he did, and he utilized that in the past. The one that they did sort of focus on was his ad campaign for Pepsodent ads. Basically, Pepsodent was the first toothpaste, and his ads consisted of licking your teeth. Once you lick your teeth, if you felt film, which is just plaque. Now we know the name of it, but if you felt film on your teeth, the routine that it was supposed to trigger was go brush your teeth with my product, Pepsodent. Um, and as the reward, you'd get teeth. But he built the entire ad off of this concept, and it was very, very successful. Till this day, we all brush our teeth. But yeah, so he did utilize the loop to his advantage. Same thing with Febreze. At the time, it was odorless, and it was just supposed to be at the end of the chores. It would just eliminate odors, is what it was advertised to do once you were done cleaning a room or whatever, a bathroom. But until this day, as you probably know, Febreze is still a successful company built off of the loop. One thing that they did show inside one of the studies with Julio the monkey was that it began craving like a reward. They did this experiment where it would pull a lever, it would get blackberry juice from pulling the lever. They started throwing obstacles in front of it, and it would just completely ignore it because it was so, uh, and this is what addiction is, but it was so addicted to the blackberry juice that it would just ignore it, and it'd throw fits if it didn't get it. Um, but yeah, so that is a danger side to it if you build a loop to the wrong things like drugs or alcohol, things like that. All right, and the book does end with some personal advice. It says if you are trying to break a habit, don't feel too bad. It takes time if you fall into the bad habit you're trying to build a couple times, because what you got to do is, again, calling to mind the loop, the cue, routine, and reward. You want to stop it at the reward part. So the cue, whatever it is, you feel stressed, and the routine is to go smoke a cigarette. If you go smoke a cigarette, you just gotta basically don't feel bad to beat yourself over about it. Beat yourself over it because you're trying to take away the reward aspect of that habit. As long as you work at it over time, be uh, it will be broken. So it just takes time, and that's one of the ways you can take advantage of the loop that they bring up. But yeah, I would say it's a really good book. I would give it like a 8 out of 10. You know, it's not a book that's like a story sort of thing, but it's more of an informative kind of book, which is not really my type of book. But really, it's really good because even though I'm not really into those sort of informative books, I like more of a story, in my opinion. This was really good. It was really well written. It was easy to read, and kept you engaged the whole time. But yeah, so 8 out of 10 book I would recommend.